Hello, everyone. Hello, Rutger. I'm really happy you accepted the invitation to join our podcast, The Newsroom of Tomorrow. Welcome. I'm very happy to see you and to hear you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Could you please, at the beginning, introduce yourself and the company you co-created and you work for, smartocto? What do you do, and what was the idea behind smartocto?
Yes, of course. Well, my name is Rutger Verhoeven. I am one of the founders of smartocto. And the whole idea of smartocto is to bring smart editorial analytics to newsrooms, wherever they are, whether they are news organizations, broadcasting organizations, publishers, storytellers, doesn't really matter. When they create content, we're actually here to help them out. And we try to facilitate decision making. So with smart notifications that we calculate based on everything you publish, we help you to make better decisions in order to improve your content strategy.
From what I know, the people behind smartocto used to be journalists themselves. Is that true?
Yes. So we started the company about 8 years ago, and we both used to work for media organizations, big Dutch nationally funded broadcasters. So yeah, it's true that we have our own experience and relation with media, and this is where the whole idea of smartocto actually also arose.
Somehow you had this insider view before about needed solutions for newsroom analytics.
Yeah, we saw newsrooms struggle, so to say, on a daily basis, and they made mistakes all over again, not because they're stupid, but because that's what happens in newsrooms, right? They publish articles and then they tend to focus on new articles because there is always new news that comes in, and we saw that there is a big opportunity to stick around and pay attention to the stories that are published up front and not create orphans, as we like to call them, right? But you actually have some parental guidance for every single story in order to have more profit from the effort that you took to actually create the article. And that's when we figured we don't even want to make dashboards, although they are useful, of course, but we want to do something else, bring smart, relevant, simple tips or notifications, as we call them, to news organizations, telling them, you should create a follow-up for this article because people really like this topic, or you should consider writing an alternative headline because it's not performing well, or stuff like that. Just, really simple, practical suggestions based on data to help newsrooms become better in their storytelling effort.
So you said the company was founded 8 years ago, so it's quite a while. Could you tell us a little bit about smartocto clients and where are you now with the company development? How do you really position yourself on the market, and maybe a little sneak peek into the future as well?
We think we kind of made not a giant pivot, but we believed that we wanted to go from data to insights, and now we're moving towards decision making. And we also have some new interesting stuff that we do with AI. We're going to host our own AI in order to become even better in predicting stories. So where is it going towards? In order to make better notifications, in order to make decision making more easy, I guess. And so clients that we work for, they really get this idea of decision making, and it's mainly news organizations, but this can be regular broadcasters, radio, TV, online news platforms, but also, of course, magazines, newspapers. Of course, we have a lot of newspapers commercially, but also publicly funded. So yeah, it's very diverse, and we work for over 350 news organizations across the globe. So we have all continents in the world where we have clients, and that's challenging, right? To see all the difference in all these different cultures with all these different approaches, whether or not they have a conversion strategy, payroll strategy, eyeball strategy, whether they try to get into real, investigative journalism or more like breaking news journalism. It's all very diverse. And with the smart notifications, we try to bring relevance to all these different use cases and clients.
Yeah, maybe let's talk a little bit about those differences and the general state of newsroom analytics. It can be, I don't know, maybe across regions or countries, or maybe in general. Like, how do you perceive this condition? Like, what's your perspective? How do newsrooms generally cope with newsroom analytics?
Yeah, I think it's a given, right? Editorial analytics are here to stay. Everyone is doing it in some way or another. We're trying to do it differently. We, as I said, dashboards only help to a certain level. You see that people want something else, right? We're entering a new phase, so there is more of a maturity in the industry, and people come to us because they want to be supported with their decision making, and they really get the notifications part, the actionability that makes smartocto stand out from many other editorial analytics. Feels like like a sales pitch, but it's not. I mean, we're the only one, as far as we know, who creates notifications the way we do it in order to service, and support whatever business model you're running. And this is also what we see, right? Your question, right? What's the condition of newsroom analytics? I think we move away. The industry is moving away from page views. They need some other metrics that actually measure something else and become of more value to the organization. And I guess that's where we come in, because the notifications that we create are so much addressed to the specific business models that they become very helpful to them, and they are helpful in making decisions, and that's what they all are looking for.
Could you maybe give an example of such a notification? Like, does it say, put this article higher on the homepage, or put this article behind paywall? So, because you mentioned that these are like actionable insights, that they actually suggest what editors, journalists, publishers can do. Maybe a couple of examples to illustrate that.
Yeah, it's exactly what you suggested. We have over, I think it's more than 300 different notifications, and they're exactly as you said. So we can say, this article performs really well. You should put it on your top spot in the newsletter, if we know what the workflow is, right? So we can, if we know this organization sends out newsletters on Wednesday at 12, we will send a notification 15 minutes before 12 saying this article is actually your best pick for today to put on the newsletter on top. But we can suggest to do headline testing, or we will in the very near future, we will launch the latest feature where we will suggest to do an A/B test on images, for example, on your homepage. We can give you suggestions on orchestrations. You can imagine, if an article really performs well, it gets put off from the homepage, you will see an immediately drop in page views and impact and engagement. So we will notify on that, saying, probably this article fell off the homepage. Maybe you should consider putting it back, because it was still attracting a lot of audiences to it. We can be supportive towards business models, as you suggested, put this one behind the paywall or take it away from the paywall in order to attract a larger amount of audience. We can suggest to create follow-ups. Recently, but we'll probably talk about that, we really embraced the user need model. We have a lot of user need related notifications saying you should write more inspire me stories for your economic section, for example. It can go all over. We can even make it on section level, or maybe even on author level, saying this person. So Joanna really writes great human interest stories that contribute to your conversion strategy. Try to make, to let her write more of those articles because, they contribute to your overall strategy.
Now I'd like to go back to the user needs model. I know that you worked with one of the best experts in digital innovation field, Dmitry Shishkin, who previously had worked with BBC on the user needs model, but as I understand, you somehow enhanced it and improved it and created the 2.0 model. So could you maybe tell us what actually this model is and how it works? And
well, maybe for those who don't know the user need model, right? It was invented by the BBC 2016, and it was especially invented for BBC outlets, not in the UK, but in all the foreign countries where BBC is creating news content. And what they saw happening was a huge decline of relevance of page views, because many local, more primary news organizations or sources would pick their page views away because BBC was only delivering the factual news, just so the who, what, where, when, why articles. And so BBC was wondering, what can we do? Considering the fact that we're not the primary news source, what can we actually do to improve the way we create news? And that's when they started doing qualitative surveys. They were just talking to their audiences, asking them, what is it that you want from the news? When what is it that you're actually looking for? And this is where the user need model, the first version, came from, because people were saying, we don't really necessarily want to be informed all the time, the update me version of the user need model, but we want to learn something, educate me. We want to understand it better, give me perspective. So in a broader context, we want to be inspired by people who actually persevered something or were, first person actor in the news event. We want to have a lighter take on the news, or even we want to be able to see and understand better what people on different platforms are saying about the news to keep me on trend. So those were the 6 user need models. They were defined by the BBC. And once they started to commission stories in a more broader way regarding this user need model, they saw that everything went up. More page views, people were coming back to the BBC site more often. They were starting to engage with the content more often. So that model really worked for them. And we figured within smartocto, wouldn't it be really interesting if we could connect our notifications to the user need model and create more directional notifications for journalists saying, you should write a more inspirational piece on your economic section because that will contribute to your overall engagement strategy, for example. And so we did a few things. We started to work with Dmitry. We started to work with some of our clients to understand better how this user need model was working in different countries for different sorts of organizations. Is it different for commercial newspapers versus publicly funded broadcasters, for example? And we also tossed the model a little bit around and created a more, the 2.0 version, as you mentioned, where we added another axle to the whole model. So now it's actually 4 axles. One is factual, one is emotional, one is more context driven, and one is more act driven. So people want to do something, or they want to be helped. For example, if you want to become more environmental friendly in your house, you need advice on how to put solar panels on your roof, for example. Now that's a perfect example of a help me story. So now we have defined 8 user needs, and we're working with a lot of organizations now, also again from all over the globe, to figure out how to write better notifications regarding this user need model. And that's looking pretty amazing. And we've even added AI to it. So we now have also AI driven automatic recognition system who can tell what user need is in a particular news article. That helps us to create better notifications, for example.
How do you perceive the general attitude of journalists towards insights and data? From our conversations, it seems that sometimes, or even not sometimes, but quite often, there is some reluctance in newsrooms towards data. Do you think that this process of data democratization or bringing data into the newsroom is like equally important to the insights themselves?
Yeah.
How do you see that?
Of course. Yeah. I think, well, first of all, of course, it can be quite devastating if you get the brutal facts that your story is not performing well, right? And you will always end up in discussions like, but I'm not the clickbait machine here, right? People just need to know certain events, and that's what I write about. And it's less important how many people actually read the story. Now, this is a really hard discussion because you can, if you are a journalist working for whatever organization, you can argue that, you still need some sort of minimum of page views, whatever they might be, right? So one of the things we always do when we work with newsrooms is ask them, tell us what your success metrics are, right? And they probably will differ for different topics. If you cover Champions League soccer, it will probably be different than when you do some local politician's background story. Okay, fair enough. So we will define how the success metrics will look, and our notifications will use that information, right? And therefore, notifications will differ for different sort of articles and different people, etc., and different needs, and different metrics. And this is also why we started with user needs. One of our clients said user needs are the language for data, right? Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting way of connecting to journalists because it's about what they make and not how it performs, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a language that they understand because it's about how they can actually make their work better. You could look at them as artists, right? They like to think of themselves as artists. And you don't tell them that their work doesn't work or is not good, but you tell them you have different tools in order to make your work become better, right? And that's helpful. On the other hand, as I said in the beginning, we're entering a new phase where there is a bigger sense of urgency, and the maturity level in the industry actually has increased. So journalists understand that they can use data for their own benefit. And so there will always be a challenge there, I guess.
Yeah, someone said that data is actually like a means of communication, like a feedback loop. What's then like around the corner? What is still like hard to measure, but could be like great metric to look at? Or where is newsroom analytics going? In which direction? Towards user needs or something else?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, in the latest Reuters Institute report, user needs were being mentioned as one of the big things. We, as I said in the beginning, are developing a lot of stuff around AI. We like to understand better, is it too difficult? For example, the way you written the article might be too difficult for the audience you're addressing it to, or maybe you're using a lot of jargon. I don't know if that's an English word, but you're just using words that are hard for people to understand. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need to write more explanational stuff in order to make it lighter. Maybe the amount of words is too long. Maybe we will even go towards, I don't know, Shiskin will disagree on this one, but maybe we're going towards specific user needs for specific paragraphs. So there is lots of additional stuff in the metadata, collecting all sorts of additional information on stories that we can use to create better notifications and to do better predictions that we can do. A lot of stuff around. One of the things we've developed is smartocto Smartify, and this is something that really fits on a workflow. So if we understand that, for example, in the morning meeting at 8:30 or 9, people discuss stories that are still relevant from yesterday, or at 12 o'clock they discuss what should go to social because of the lunch break, or at 4 o'clock they discuss what stories should we consider to create follow-ups on and send out the TV team for the evening coverage or whatever. If we understand how this workflow operates within a specific news organizations, Smartify can actually help you, because you go to the system and you say, okay, if I wanted to put something on social media now, which article should I pick? And Smartify will collect the most relevant stories and also calculates what the predicted impact will be. So it will, on all sorts of different specific questions people might have on specific times of the day related to specific audiences, specific channels, you can ask our system, what story should I pick? What editorial tasks should I consider? And it will give you advice on that.
Okay, so we invite everyone to visit smartocto website, and we also invite everyone to visit Authentica's blog, at our YouTube channel, at our Spotify channel for more interesting conversations about the state of digital media and digital publishing. Thank you, Rutger, very much for this conversation.
Thank you.
And wish you all the best with smartocto.
Have a great summer. Bye-bye.